One. All right. Welcome to Dave TV. I'm Dave, and we've got a special guest today, a friend of the show, and somebody who has been in the trenches kind of trying to figure out politics and life and philosophy and comes in, too, with a sharp legal mind as well. Please welcome to the show my friend Stacie. Hello, Stacie.
Hello, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We talked for a little while about maybe doing a broadcast, but it really came to fruition today when I was looking at some of the craziness on Twitter and just in the news in general, Mount Rushmore coming down and statues of abolitionists being destroyed, and Abraham Lincoln is somebody now that I can't really look up to for some reason. It's a little bit, the world's going a little crazy right now. It's a little perplexing. Tell us some of your thoughts about this, and we'll just kind of converse and, tell us what you think about some of these issues. And you're, like me, you're a Tulsi Gabbard fan, supporter. I went through the 4 stages of grief after she dropped out. You were far more diplomatic and more even-keeled than I was afterwards, but let's
I did go through my own stages of grief, but I think they were just a little bit faster.
Yeah. So you recovered faster. You had a better quality vodka. See, I'm using this is the bottom shelf stuff, and
man,
because I don't earn a lot doing the channel. Obviously, here I'm making just like a few dollars a month. So, when I scrape the money together, I go down to the package store. And I'm like, whatever you guys, how much can this get me? Because
what happened to that shipment from Vlad? Is he not delivering anymore?
Well, he found out.
Got to come through.
No, he found out that I wasn't a loyal Trump supporter. So that's what he found out. So, because he even though and we can talk about Trump because as time goes by, and it's not the vodka talking, Donald Trump in some areas, especially like the stuff on anti-war and trying to pull back. I mean, he's got a bunch of advisors saying, "Oh, no, you can't leave Afghanistan. What are you doing?" It's like,
right.
We're living in a weird place. So what are your feelings on that? Well, I'll, indulge here.
Well, let's see. Starting with the tearing down of the monuments, specifically Mount Rushmore, I think that is absolutely disgraceful. I think that all of this has just gone too far. I do think that Black Lives matter. Black lives definitely matter. We need criminal justice reform, but it seems like people don't really want to focus on the issues. They would rather focus on anger and, they just want to be angry. And I don't know if it's really the people who are that angry or if it's propaganda, if it's just being made to look like that. Perhaps, our government could be the ones who are trying to divide us, which I think could actually be the case.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Some, though, on the neoliberal left would call you a conspiracy theorist because you're putting forth the idea that, the government in general doesn't always have our best interests 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that they may have done a lot of these things in the past and even up until the present time to divide us and to keep us fighting over these tribal issues. Now, I would probably say that the BLM stuff at its core, like the foundation of it, like if we watch the tape of George Floyd, we say to ourselves, that was a big problem at the very least. That was, but here's the other side to this, and I was talking to my friend Charles about this, is that this guy, Chauvin, I think his name is, the cop who did it, he still needs his day in court. He needs still to go through the actual process of our legal system before he's tried in the court of public opinion. Now, I'm not defending the guy because the tape clearly shows that for some odd, how many minutes, I can't remember the exact time frame, but it was 20-something minutes that this went on. people do kind of ignore the fact that Floyd had a lot of drugs in his system. And I'm not saying that that was justifiable behavior based on the drug intake, but could it have been a contributing factor to George Floyd passing away? I'm not a medical expert. I am the guy right now I am grasping and searching for truth. I'm looking for, I know this is a crazy thing to say. I think Orwell said when you start to do truth, it's a revolutionary act when truth has become really just almost like an afterthought these days. And I'm wondering what your perspective was. You have a legal mind, which is interesting. I'd love to hear a legal perspective. Obviously, these cops, some of them in some of these jurisdictions with the unions protecting them and a lot of these other things that are going on, is it a culture, you think, in the police, in some of these police forces, or are these rogue agents that are going around trying to be vigilantes? I mean, I don't know.
I'm the last person who would ever defend a corrupt police officer.
Right.
And I do definitely think that Derek Chauvin should be tried and convicted, and he should probably spend the rest of his life in prison. But I also understand that the criminal justice system does take time. They need to indict him. He does have the right to an attorney. He does have the right to prepare for his trial. He should get a look at that toxicology report. His lawyer should get to see it and analyze it. So yes, I do think that he's guilty and he should spend the rest of his life in prison, but it's not going to happen overnight. And I don't think that anyone should expect for it to happen overnight. Now back to your original point about me being a conspiracy theorist. I may be, on this particular issue, but I will say, Dave, that in general, when someone is labeled as a conspiracy theorist, usually, and on other issues in particular, which we won't talk about today, we can save that for another day. A conspiracy theorist is someone whose evidence of the truth is censored.
Yes.
So, I mean, Facebook has just completely deleted my comments before. And my mother, said to me the next day, "Hey, Stacie, why did you delete that message? I wanted to read that." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "That message, you responded to my post." And I said, "I didn't delete it." And I went on Facebook and it was gone.
Yeah.
So that's what a conspiracy theorist is someone whose evidence gets deleted magically.
Well, that's the 2020 definition of a conspiracy theorist. Look, this is going to be a shock to some people who've watched my channel in the past, where I was leaning toward, the Green Party and talking about issues maybe a little differently in context. But I've had some questions about the whole COVID. We can switch here a little bit. The whole COVID-19 and how currently, if you go on Twitter, you turn on your local TV, you're going to hear, at least in my state, I live in Florida, and Florida is a hot spot. Okay, parts of Florida, very, very hot. 8,000 cases, 9,000 cases a day. And by the way, the case count, the way they do this, which is a very interesting thing, I don't know if you've noticed this, is that they continue to accumulate cases. In other words, if we have 8,000 new cases, that gets added to the prior total. And that total never accounts for recovered cases. It never shows the people that, they had mild symptoms, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were in the hospital, they got out, they recovered. Those cases never get taken off the board. So it's very frightening the way they're doing this. And so I was doing a little research, and the research took me to a place that apparently you were talking about conspiracy theories, took me to a site called newswars.com. Now, if you know anything about, and I got to be careful because on YouTube, I don't know if this video will stay up. I'm going to try to use...
we're probably going to say things that...
Yeah.
You're going to hate me.
Well, I can keep in mind, I can also load this video over to Rockfin. So if YouTube demonetization, it happens all the time, right? So I'm not expecting to make a lot of money off this video. So I go over to News Wars, and News Wars is a subsidiary website of that other website that was banned, that a guy by the name of Alex is the curator of all this material, and he's the original conspiracy theorist. Well, the News Wars site actually had a link to a town meeting that was done in Texas back on May 18th. And they were talking about how they were going to record new coronavirus cases. And they said, well, if we get a case, and this is, you can go look at this yourself if you want to validate, and it's not News Wars making a video about the actual town meeting. In this meeting, they're debating back and forth about how they're going to record coronavirus cases, which is kind of odd to me. And so they say, yeah, so we record a case, and the case it's positive. And then we find out, I don't know, through contact tracing or how they're finding out, but they go, okay, so we find out how many people this person was in contact with. On average, it's 14 or 15 people. And so they say, look, we don't know if those people are positive for COVID, but we have to assume that these are probable cases. So rather than calling them probable or getting a confirmation that they're a case, they admit in the town meeting that the case is actually moved. These probable cases are moved over to current cases.
Are you serious?
Again, that's why, so you can look at this yourself. This video to me was mind-blowing. It was like, so I kept watching it, and she said it over and over again, and this was not the News Wars people doing, again, their own videos saying, see, this, because you can come up with stuff yourself and kind of inject your own little theory to everything. This was how they're actually recording coronavirus cases in the state of Texas, which, by the way, has also become a hotspot. So
that's absurd.
Yeah. So basically, my wife, who is a medical assistant, I can't say anything about that. Like I have to pull back because
Right.
She works for a medical thing, and I don't want to say where, and so I'm not gonna say it. So anyway, but all I can tell you is that was a revelation. So basically, if you're a case in Texas, you're plus 15 for COVID. So you've just added 15 to the caseload based on contact tracing, again, or just a theory of association. So if Stacie, you have COVID and you're out and you go about, and they're going to say, well, you're in contact. We just know you're in contact with probably an average of 15 people. So we're just going to slide that over to the COVID column. And so you'll notice since the middle of May, because remember, we were reopening, things were going pretty good. The cases were kind of, flatlining or maybe going up and down a little bit, but it didn't have this basic hockey stick thing that we're experiencing now. And so when people say, hey, we're just getting inundated. I mean, it's the summer months. Typically a virus in the summer calms down. It typically calms down. I don't remember any of these other outbreaks where it got worse in the summer, but we're in the midst of summer now. We are July 4th, literally. And typically cases go down, but isn't it kind of weird how cases, to play into your conspiracy theory stuff here, isn't it kind of weird now how cases are spiking? So I don't know. You could check it out yourself. I mean, people always say, do your own research if you don't want to believe me, but I wanted to put that in this video. I already did a video for Rockfin where I put the actual town meeting clip into the video so people could watch it for themselves. Mind blowing.
Okay. Yeah,
absolutely.
I will.
Yeah,
I will check it out. I would like to say I am completely against contact tracing.
it's a mouthful.
I think that there's going to be a serious Fourth Amendment issue. I remember seeing something. I was watching Tucker Carlson, and he showed a clip of someone from the World Health Organization saying that they were going to have to start entering people's houses soon. and they weren't talking about the United States at that point, but the World Health Organization will not enter my home. I have a shotgun. They will not enter. They're not coming in. I mean,
Right.
our forefathers fought and died so that we could have the Fourth Amendment right to be free from searches, from illegal searches or seizures.
Yeah.
And they're not coming into my home. The House Resolution 6666 is one of those issues where my opinions and viewpoints differ from Tulsi's.
Yeah.
I don't think that is a very good idea long term. I think that we need to think about our privacy and our security, and for for a computer or a drone to to whatever, or just even individuals who are now getting hired as contact tracers. I think that's a really scary thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Tulsi, that was one area where I was a little disappointed. She's been very neoliberal, I'll say that, in her approach to COVID. She's very big on.
I think that she just wants to save lives.
Yeah.
And there was a discussion between Ed Snowden and Glenn Greenwald. I don't know if you saw it, but there was. It was really interesting. They were kind of comparing the coronavirus to what happened on 9/11 and, the AUMF and all of the security measures that we took as a nation after 9/11. And, basically we ended up, it was a lot of the searches that were done were unconstitutional. Yeah. But if we get to the point where we are actually allowing it, where the legislation gets passed and basically we're saying, yes, this is okay, then it won't be unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Then it will be okay for these infringements on our privacy and liberty to occur.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be careful. And that's, Snowden and Greenwald were kind of talking about, we really do care about human lives and we want to save human lives. But we also need to be really, really careful that we're not sacrificing our civil liberties.
Yeah. Glenn Greenwald is one of those guys who, he's a very progressive guy. And there are a few of them out there, and I respect what they have to say because, they're not, even though they're progressive on issues, like just regular bread and butter kitchen table issues, they're also very mindful of, again, ceding your own power over to authoritarianism, which I think sets them apart from a lot of the neoliberals who are out there berating people all over the place about mask wearing. I like to call it emasculation because it's really terrifying to me. Like you can be essentially shamed, like mask shaming, like you're not wearing a mask. Why aren't you wearing a mask? And, again, I don't want to talk too much about the medical stuff, but as far as how well it's working, okay, you can measure that. How well is it working? How, when we were locked down and we were quarantined and we weren't even going outside, people were afraid in my neighborhood. They were like, should I go outside even? And that kind of fear, when a population gets controlled like that, that scares the crap out of me because it shows it's very much like any Stalinist or it's very much like the past where an authoritarian came along and was able to do kind of like a dry run on his people, on their people, and say, hey, we're going to do this. And I'm not saying this is any kind of a warm-up for something, although, again, if you like conspiracy theories, there are a lot of people saying this is just a test, and wait to see what's coming along. Talk to Bill Gates and he'll tell you what's coming next, kind of a thing. I don't know if any of that's true. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff and I like to think that it's not true, but my antennas always go up, and I'm always really concerned that at the end of the day, this is all about civil liberties. It's all about kind of how much are you willing to sacrifice for security? This could kill you. Are you sure you want to go out without a mask? And again, if you put stats out there, like it tends to be elderly people that are, let's put it this way. Anybody can get this, but it's what happens after you get it, which should be the focus. But we're not focused on that. We're focused on new cases. Oh, anybody can get this, new cases, and you got to do your part to protect the other person from getting it. Well, the majority of the people, okay, are getting it and recovering. The vast majority. And yes, there are some incredibly tragic and heartbreaking things that are happening out there. But again, every day I don't mean to what's the word? I don't want to marginalize this or make it sound like it's not a big deal, but there are people driving their cars crashing into one another as we speak. Okay. And I don't know if they're living or they're dying or they're going to be disabled for the rest of their life or what, but there is risk. There is built-in risk to living. Otherwise, like somebody said, the only people who don't have problems are in the cemetery currently. They're in the cemetery. They don't have problems because they're no longer above ground. So they don't have to face all the risks that we have to face. And you may say, well, this is an unnecessary risk, Dave. Put your mask on and behave yourself, contact trace and social distance, and listen to the rulers of the world, which currently happens to be the CDC. Every commercial I turn on TV, well, if you want to visit our furniture store, we've cleaned our furniture with CDC-approved cleansers. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, CDC-approved cleansers. Like the cleansers that we have in our house, they're not CDC-approved. Therefore, you come over to my house and you just kind of take your chances because I can't stop you at the door and tell you about my great CDC-approved cleansers that I have in the house.
Right.
So it's getting a little creepy, Stacie. It's getting a little weird out there. So,
yeah.
So again, there are a lot of things happening in the world. We've got Corona out of control. We've got, is BLM, what really is BLM? And is it what it is, what it says it is? I'm starting to move away from that a little bit, or a lot actually. And patriotism. You had a flag out there. Is it good to be patriotic? Is the American flag inherently evil? I mean, where do we go with any of this now? It just seems like this is why I've decided to kind of, sort of cower in the fetal position and become a bit of a political moderate at this stage. Because I don't believe in violence. I'm more of a Gandhi Jesus kind of guy. Like, hey, I'll turn the other cheek, treat your neighbor better than you want to be treated and so forth. Like live by the golden rule, all those sorts of things. But I don't see like gunfire and lighting stuff on fire and throwing Molotov cocktails as the answer, So I don't know where you're all on that, but
Molotov cocktails.
This is not a Molotov cocktail.
Well, why not?
Well, it doesn't. Well, if it had a little
Molotov cocktail in here.
Tight. It's root beer. Okay, beer. See now, if you could light this on fire, then you'd know that it had a really high alcohol content. But I would never throw it. That's the thing.
Okay.
I would drink it.
Even we'll save the science experiments for another day.
That would be for my 50.
We need to get a shipment of Vlad's vodka. What did I say we should call this show? Vlad's vodka.
Vlad's vodka. I think it would get banned. I think it would be completely censored. It's like Vladimir, he has your vodka. It's better to do this while consuming vodka because maybe it eases your you can cope because again I've been in the last few months you think this through and you're like, what's happening? I mean, I grew up in a world that was different. I'm a little older than you, and I was trying to explain to my kids about, racism, and about how I truly, and this is from the bottom of my heart, people can disagree, but when I grew up as a young kid in the 1970s, so I had two friends. They had a program I lived outside of Boston. I lived in the most patriotic place on earth for a while, and that was Lexington, Massachusetts. Okay. Today was a big day in Lexington, as was, Patriots Day in April, which I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. If they do that, I think it'll probably be banned soon. But we had kids that used to be bussed out from the inner city. This was the whole desegregation of the 1970s, the stuff that Joe Biden got beat up on and continuously gets beat up on because he didn't want his kids living in a racial jungle, whatever that means. So
Right.
we lived in not a racial jungle. It was just a nice, pleasant mix of kids who were coming in. And my two best friends used to get off that bus every day. One kid by the name of Burl, and the other kid, his name was Larry. And they were two of my best friends in elementary school. And I never even, I knew they had darker skin. I didn't go around like, oh, your skin is so dark. And it was just like we were kids. We got along. We had fun like little kids do. And it was that innocence that I recall now in my elder years. I look back and I go, why can't it just be like that? Why do we continue to focus and focus? And I know there are people who are hardened, or they have a different worldview, or maybe they are true racist. Maybe they have it in their DNA. I never did. But the weird thing is I'm more aware of race than I've ever been in my life. As if,
Right.
And don't you think it's kind of weird? Like, they tell us to be colorblind. Not, I mean, us, like everybody. I'm not referring to white people.
Right.
But yet, all they talk about is race.
So I was kind of beat up on Twitter a little bit because I tweeted something and I said, I think that all of this is dividing us further. I think that our government wants us to be divided. I said, I was at Home Depot a few weeks ago, and it was really disappointing to me because normally when I go places, I don't see Black people and white people and Hispanic people and Asian people. I just see people.
Mm.
And when I was at Home Depot a few weeks ago, I saw Black people and white people. And I wondered to myself if the Black people were mad at me. And I have never felt like that before.
Mm.
And I think that just having that realization, I don't want to treat Black people differently than I treat white people. And I believe that I said that as well. And then people said, no, we should be treating, what do you mean? We should be treating Black people differently. And somebody asked me, what do you mean? And I said, well, my grandmother used to be like overly kind to Black people. And I think that's racist. I think it's racist to treat anyone differently. I think that, she would almost kind of treat them the way that like some people treat physically handicapped kids, which is, I guess it's better than being ignored or, any of the other things that are the result of racism. But I just think I shouldn't have to see Black people and white people and Asian people. And I don't think that, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Black person, but I know that some Black people see, oh, well, they're white. And some white people see like, oh, well, that's, she's black or he's black or whatever. But I don't think that it's right to see people differently. I don't want to see people differently. I just want to see people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't really like the way that it's making me feel. And I know that if I'm feeling like this, I'm sure that, the rest of the world, and you can see, I mean, people are just like crazy. Like you're either on one side or you're on the other side. How about being on the side of reason? How about just not being an extremist? You don't have to hate cops and you don't have to hate black people. You can just say, guess what?
Yep.
Derek Chauvin belongs in prison.
Right.
And looting and burning is a crime. And
right.
The people who are doing that should be charged accordingly.
Yes, that's brilliant. See, what you did right there was the new Dave TV sort of motto, which is moderation. I've been on Twitter, and call me the squishy moderate now. Call me the guy who's, you're lukewarm, you're not hot over here, you're not following the trend over there. No, I'm not doing it. When you were talking, and I hate to quote the warmongering president, George W. Bush, but he did do a speech back in, I don't know, whenever, 2003 or so, and he coined a phrase, or his speechwriter coined the phrase, I'm sure, and it's the soft bigotry of low expectations. That's what you were describing. Was it your grandmother you said that did that? It's almost as if,
hi, how are you today?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's racist.
Yeah, you're black. So if you're black, that means I have to treat you this way.
Right.
To me, wait a minute. Whoa. You're right. If you want to talk about racism, now this might be racism, like I feel sorry for you kind of racism, but it points to what Bush was saying in the little diatribe, was that, well, we don't expect you to be like us. So we're going to do some things to kind of make up for that. Now, again, tearing down Mount Rushmore, okay, is not going to make up. It's not a makeup call. It's a symbolic thing, and it's a deadly symbolic thing, because there are people, it's almost like you're going to tear the fabric, the whole essence of the country, and you're going to try to destroy it and flatten it and start from scratch. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, and history is history.
Defund the police, right?
Oh.
Defund the police. No, I don't think that, I mean, it's like tearing down Mount Rushmore is not going to just make everything better. I mean, one of the reasons why I was not angry about all of these things is because I've known about the corruption in the criminal justice system for a very long time. Yeah. Not every police officer is corrupt.
Right.
They're not all corrupt. We do need policy change. We do need every police officer to wear his or her body cam video all the time. That means they don't get to cover it up and, say, oh, I'm sorry, my jacket fell over it. That means no excuses. That right. The defense attorney should have that body cam. Mm-hmm. The entire thing. Don't leave parts out. Hand it over.
Yeah.
So, and I think that there is policy change happening. Mm-hmm. There are two opposing bills right now. Right. There is the Justice Act and then the Justice in Policing Act.
Yeah.
And they're very similar to each other, really. Mm-hmm. The Democrats are saying that the Republicans are basically getting away with murder because, the Republican bill doesn't ban chokeholds or whatever. But, I think that both of those bills are actually pretty similar. And I think that instead of tearing down Mount Rushmore, maybe we should actually read those bills and look at the things that it says in those bills, because it's they both of those bills are a really good start. And the problem is that the Democrats don't want to talk to the Republicans. They say, no, our bill is better. You know, their bill is in the House.
Yep.
And this, the Republicans don't want to talk to the Democrats.
Right.
So, and the bills are just so similar. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But no, instead we want to burn buildings and tear down Mount Rushmore. How about if we made body cams mandatory? And not mandatory, in 4 years, like the one, and I do applaud the Colorado, I think it was Colorado, the governor, for at least trying to amend their constitution. But, body cams it doesn't take 4 years. No.
And you make a lot of good points here about the and again, this is a part of my new crusade, is that the Republicans and the Democrats, for absolutely the worst reasons, don't want to work the reason they don't want to work together is they don't want to give the other side credit for anything. So if the Democrats come up with a good bill, Republicans are going to look at it and go, oh no, we're going to do our own bill. And then their bill is a little bit different, but not that much. And sometimes the bills can even be, like you said, almost indistinguishable. So what happens is our team wants to get the credit, and the D team doesn't want to let them get the credit, or vice versa. And then who gets the shaft? We do.
And it was really funny.
What?
Justin Amash. Yeah. His qualified immunity bill was in the Democrat bill.
Yeah.
So they took the language of his bill and verbatim put it into the Democrat bill, the Justice in Policing Act. And then Justin Amash still had criticisms of the Democrat bill. Now, I have criticisms of both bills because neither bill makes it mandatory to retain body cam footage beyond 6 months. Yeah. Unless the police officer decides that it has exculpatory or whatever. And I'm saying, police officers don't usually turn over exculpatory evidence.
Yeah.
And especially if there's a constitutional violation, that's what I don't get.
Yeah.
That's what public defenders don't get. So, and somebody, like, if you're going to charge someone, not just on the state level, but on the federal level as well, you could wait 6 months before charging them. Yeah. And then the entire video of the stop is gone because the police officer decided that part wasn't relevant.
Right.
And guess what? It is relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm very libertarian in some areas. In this area where you need accountability, you need a system to keep law enforcement accountable here. And again, as much as I support, and I do support the police overall, I have believe me, there's nobody coming if you don't have a police department. This is the key part of the whole defund the police. I was on with, I told you I was in a video with some guys who are a little bit more to the left of me, I would say, and they were talking about, so what do you think about defund the police? And my first thought was, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's the dumbest thing, and by the way, it's a political loser with a capital L. When you tell Americans, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians, Greens, whoever, well, maybe not Greens, but you tell them and you say, hey, our idea is defund the police, and we're gonna bring in social workers, and you've got a woman who's in the midst calling 911 because her boyfriend or her spouse, whatever, is beating the crap out of her. Okay, and a social worker shows up. And by the way, the social worker doesn't drive a really fast police car to get to the location. All right. And probably isn't skilled in the art of breaking this up or detaining this big 200 plus pound individual to get away from this woman who probably weighs 100 pounds soaking wet. So, and I'm sorry if those are stereotypes, but let's just be real. This stuff happens every day. So,
it does.
So,
and Dave, you know what else happens every day?
What's that?
And you can edit this out if you think that it will get
I'm
demonetized. But every single day, children all across America are raped and sexually abused.
Yeah.
And we want to defund the police. And there are women who are getting the shit beaten out of them.
Yeah.
You know, and men too. You know, domestic violence goes both ways.
Yeah.
But you know, these having a social worker show up in that situation, you're going to have, you know, some big guy going, you know, what the fuck are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And excuse my French, but that's just the way that it goes down. I mean, I've watched the body cam videos of those situations. So, so we don't want to defund the police.
No.
Not every police officer is bad.
No.
You know, and I'm the last person who would ever defend a corrupt cop.
Right.
You know, I was always, you know, that lawyer who would watch every single body cam video and request the ones that I didn't have, because if there was a way that I could file a motion to suppress, I was going to file it and I was going to get that case dismissed.
Right.
I've watched all of them. You know, not every police officer is bad. No. And there are policies that need to be changed, but you know, the police officers that are corrupt know exactly where that constitutional gray area is, and that's where they operate, is in that gray area, where whatever they can get away with.
Yeah, and well, that's human nature in general. You know, that's almost like you with a child at home, and they know what they can get away with, and they've been able to get away with something without you seeing it or noticing it, so they continue that behavior until the law at home is changed or enforced, and then that's the only way to change a behavior. It's, again, this idea that everything is systemic. It does, in some situations, work when it comes to maybe what you talk about, like the body cams and the things that can be done in the system itself to change that particular system. But when I hear words like, well, this is a systemic racist issue, I go, okay.
It's happening to white people. It's happening to Hispanic people. It's, you know, the police corruption is not just limited to Black people.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other people of other races who are also being victimized.
Yeah.
And I will say it again, you know, not all cops are bad.
Right. Well, you could see, this is the big war that we're having right now, Stacie, is that we are, plus you and I are both white. I'm certainly darker skinned than you, but I'm
yeah, you ain't Black.
But I'm, as according to Joe Biden, you know, especially, hey man, if you're not going to vote for me, you ain't Black.
Yeah. In 1977, he didn't want his children to go to school in a racial jungle. But now, if we don't know whether or not we're voting for him, then we ain't Black.
Imagine if he picks the kindergarten cop to run with him. It's going to be him.
But AOC is Black. Did you hear that?
I can't keep up.
She said that. She said, I am Black.
Oh.
I mean,
wow.
I think she just wanted to make it very clear that she's not white, because it's very bad to be white.
She is a privileged upper class kid from Westchester County who got really lucky and then became a celebrity politician who, I guess, fended off a really decent, smart, Democratic challenger in the primary, who would have been known as MCC, because that was her initials. I can't remember her name, but no, she didn't get any press or any media, because guess what? The media found their darling, this so-called progressive firebrand, who is really not all that progressive and really not all that much of a firebrand. And
Right.
I would really question if she's smarter than a box of rocks. Okay.
Right.
I would
Well,
really, I'd love to sit down with her and see if she knows the opening lines, for instance, to the Declaration of Independence. We know that Joe Biden forgot them, but I think initially he knew them. Of course, he's diminished, but we can't say that word. We can't talk about the fact that Joe might be in decline a little bit when it comes to cognitive skills. But with
No,
AOC,
he's fine.
he's fine. But with
Yeah,
AOC,
got it.
I got to think that AOC might know the Communist Manifesto with a little bit more verbatim vernacular than, say, you know, the Declaration or the closing lines of the Declaration. I'm not sure if she understands about pledging your sacred honor or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. So it's just a weird place that we find ourselves in, where I'm starting to see really stupid people who are rising to the top because they can shout the loudest, or they know how to use social media really effectively, or that they want to be part of this mob mentality that says burn it all down, and we can, and then what do we put in its place? So you burn everything down. When it comes to the police, we figure out that social workers aren't going to cut it. You do it with all of our traditions. What are we replacing our traditions with? If we get rid of George Washington, okay, I know George Washington, again, slave owner. I get it, okay? It's funny that all of a sudden in the year 2020, something triggered everybody. No, it didn't trigger them back in 1820, but it triggered them in 2020 to say, hey, we're done with this now. We can't, this history, look, Germany has a history. Okay. Do we really, the Germans, do they I mean, maybe they got rid of all the Hitler stuff, but they have a history. There are other countries that have histories that some of it they're proud of, some of it they probably wish didn't happen, but it happened. How do you learn from history if you erase it? Do you have any idea? How do you learn? If you tell your kids, oh, we had this innocuous founding with these white guys, but we don't talk about that anymore. They did some bad stuff, but we don't talk about that anymore. But they also did a lot of good stuff, but we don't talk about that either. So you don't hear about the Declaration of Independence. You don't hear about the fact that these guys were breaking away from tyrants. Okay? It sucked that the culture at the time slavery was part of the culture, but slavery was an overarching thing that if you really study history, there's a lot of people that own slaves that you would be very surprised own slaves. And again, I'm not apologizing for it. I'm just saying in context, things are typically taken out of context, and then they're amplified to promote a certain political cause or agenda, rather than saying, look, we learned, we got rid of it. That's what Abraham Lincoln kind of did. And then you get all these people, Lincoln was bad too. We got to get rid of him. We got to get rid of all of this stuff. He was a white guy, so we got to, okay, where does that leave us? We don't have a soul at that point. We don't, because again, there are good things and bad things, and it's all organic, and it's all who we are. And if you just kind of start erasing, it's like if you're married to somebody and you're like, honey, you know, I like you a lot. I just want to erase that portion of you that irritates me the most. If I could just get rid of that. Well, you're gonna end up ruining your entire spouse or the person that you love or you're with, because nothing is perfect. Nothing, this isn't utopia. Yeah. And there's a point where you say to yourself, you know what? And I said this in a video not too long ago. I said, stop complaining. Go out into your community. Go, instead of burning crap down, go build up your community. Go do something for somebody in need. Go, if you think there's a problem in your world, your neck of the woods, work in your community to try to fix it. Tearing the country down to try to rebuild it. And who's going to rebuild it, by the way? These people? Come on. They're not going to, I mean, the people that came before us, let's be honest, hardworking. The greatest generation fought World War II. Some of them that are still alive right now are already rolling around in their grave, and the people that are still around, because they can't imagine to continue to live in a world like this where people are so ungrateful and hurtful and vindictive and mean to each other. People that you don't even know on the social media, they're like, like yelling at you or yelling at me. I mean, it's happened to me a few times. I'm like, I'm just going to pull the plug, and then they stay. And then they're like, what happened? I'm like, I have no idea. I just ran into the wrong person on Twitter. And I know I will probably never meet this person or see them. But words, you know,
I'm
I know
actually
that,
friends with the people who were yelling at me. We're friends.
nice.
It's fine. It's
Well,
cool.
yeah.
You know, I like it. You know, we'll talk about it. You can get upset and I'll respond, and let's talk about it. Let's work it out. Let's see how we feel.
Yeah, well, you're doing better than I am at that, because I've decided that, you know, when it gets real toxic, I don't need to. It's just something that I've decided at this stage that I don't need those kinds of folks in my life. Depending on, you know, if they're, I will. What I typically do is I'll argue, then I'll take it back a notch, and then I'll try to explain myself. And if they're still coming at me with the same sort of vitriol and hate, I'll be like, you know what? I don't need this. I mean, I had a guy do that to me a few weeks ago, and people were on Twitter basically saying, what happened? I'm like, I have no idea. He just told me to delete my Twitter account and this and that. And I was like, I didn't get it. So one of the reasons I've decided just to be me on this channel and on various platforms is because I have nothing to hide. If you don't like it, you don't have to deal with it. You can go somewhere else. But I think right now, you know, when I look at the media landscape and I look at how people are interacting with one another, I think we need peacemakers. As hard as it's going to be, you know, blessed are the peacemakers. And I keep thinking of that. I keep thinking of this idea of moderation that, like, you were talking about.
The first time that I started to really pay attention to your channel, you were wearing a shirt that said, "Blessed be the peacemakers."
Yeah.
I never told you that.
Yeah. I have this. I intentionally wear, you know, certain things to send messages to people. Sometimes I just wear concert t-shirts, whatever. But I wear that shirt often because I truly, I mean, the Beatitudes is a beautiful list of things in the Bible. And oh no, I am talking religion. But it's for some people, religion is kind of like, or faith or the Bible or whatever, it's part of who they are, because they truly, it's like Tulsi Gabbard, for instance. Her faith is, I mean, it's paramount to how she thinks about things. You know, for a while I was so mad at her. I was like, how could you endorse that guy? And then I thought it through, and I said, well, she has a relationship with him. She sat down and had conversations, and obviously she was friends with Bo. Bo's no longer here, so, you know, there's a connection there, and I think she values those connections. And even though you and I may think, oh my gosh, you know, what are you doing with this guy? And most people are like that. It's like, but I kind of will chime in too and say, yeah, she really shouldn't have endorsed him, but, you know, she did, and she had her reasons. But she's a peacemaker. Getting back to my original premise, Tulsi Gabbard is a peacemaker. She was the first person who brought it up on the campaign trail and said, you know, Democrats, we were just talking about this. Democrats are doing this over here, Republicans, and she would say, because a Republican wrote the bill, we couldn't actually put the bill through.
Right. She's so honest about it.
And I'm like, what are we doing? So my focus, and I've even said to people, I go, Trump's this big orange man. He's bad. He's horrible. He's the worst guy. He's a racist. And I go, imagine if the Democrats had sat down with Donald Trump. Because all a couple of people had to do is, hey, Mr. President, we'd like to do prison reform bill. Okay. Done. The bill was done. It was like the First Steps Act or whatever it was called. Trump, even Van Jones on CNN was saying, yeah, you guys get beat here. Trump did this. Obama was in there for 8 years. He didn't do that. Donald Trump is kind of a weird animal, because on one hand, yeah, he's this blowhard and he is a show off and he's always bragging about stuff. But if you bring, I've heard privately, if you bring things to him and you can convince him, because again, you want to go back to his TV days and his little boardroom where everybody was, and that was, I know it was reality TV, but it was reality. It was like people would present something to him and say, you know, what do you think of this? And he'd go, no, you know, and then someone else would come along, just like any other human being. And he was really good at sort of being convinced as if you have a good idea.
Did Trump do the, you're fired?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was his TV, The Apprentice. It's called it was The Apprentice.
Right.
And it was funny because some of those people from that show actually either ended up in the White House as advisors, some of that stuff. Oh. Obviously his daughter went with him. And I have mixed feelings because I think that's nepotism, especially with Jared Kushner, a guy I'm not too fond of. I think he's calling a lot of plays, especially when it comes to the war machine. And he's a neo.
And that's not his place.
He's a neoliberal guy. He could work for Hillary Clinton tomorrow. Hillary Clinton would hire him tomorrow. I have no doubt. So my original premise is if we didn't have 4 years of Russiagate nonsense, Ukrainegate nonsense, or anything else they've thrown, of course now you've got coronavirus and racial tensions and so forth, which Trump, some people think that was also thrown. The Trump supporters, and God bless them, okay? Mm-hmm. They're right now at a place, because I know a lot of them, and they say things out loud like they're just trying to do everything they can so Trump doesn't get reelected. And I can't necessarily disagree with their conclusion, but I'm just thinking from the peacemaker standpoint, imagine if you had cooperation. Imagine if you had how many Tulsi Gabbards in Congress and in the Senate, just enough to be a majority.
Reasonable.
And say, you know what, me and the president, we disagree a lot on this, like immigration, right? That's the lightning rod issue. Oh no. So like you said, here's what Stacie said a little while ago. We can have police reform over here, what was the two things that I'm now messing this up? You said that we could have one thing over here, like two things can be true. Like you can have border security.
Yes.
And you could have a compassionate immigration system. Mm-hmm. Nobody combines those two things. They just go, kids in cages. Donald Trump, kids in cages. Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. They were doing that when Obama was...
People just say words.
Yeah.
They just say words. And yes, my brother-in-law and his wife are both Border Patrol agents. And So there are a lot of issues. They need more resources, first of all.
You've been canceled. You were canceled. No, go ahead.
Right? No, actually, they like Tulsi, though. They're Trumpers, but they're like, Tulsi is actually not that weird.
I know.
So, so there are issues with our Border Patrol. They need more resources. There's certain technology that they need. They need... and his name is Mike. My brother-in-law's name is Mike. And I asked him, would it make sense in some places to have a wall? And he was like, yeah, in some places, and exactly what Tulsi Gabbard said, exactly what she said. So we don't need to choose between having a wall from sea to shining sea and having, everyone come into the country.
Yeah.
So,
but
we just need why does everyone have to be such an extremist?
There you go.
Why does it either have to be one crazy thing or the other crazy thing that's on the complete opposite side of the spectrum?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's kind of a negotiation technique where, like, if this is what you want, then you start with this, and then. But that's not my negotiation technique, and I don't really think that this negotiation technique works.
Right. Well, you're making some really good points. I'm glad I had you on because I've learned I just learn things by what other people say, and I like the way you say stuff. The Again, the immigration debate, again, and this is a lot of people voted for Trump because he promised to do some kind of border, because the other side was saying, well, we don't need a border, or, and then people would challenge me, like the Bernie people would challenge me. They go, when did Bernie ever say that? I go, it's not, it's implied, it's inferred. I mean, by the way, back in 2012, Bernie did believe in borders, because he used to say things like, this is driving wages down by allowing, and it is, that's the truth that people don't want to talk about. So my solution as the new moderate independent here is to say, we need a border. Let's not be silly. Canada has a border. Other countries all over Europe, they have strict borders. Some of them are way tougher than our border. And we have a streamlined, better, faster, more compassionate immigration system that works for people who are real refugees, that acknowledges that some of our foreign policy is driving a lot of these people north, that a lot of people don't want to talk about on either side, because if we sanction a country in South America, it doesn't hurt the government there, but it really hurts the people there. So the people go, okay, where can we go? Oh, America. It's a land of opportunity. Let's go to America. So they're greeted at the border, and then unfortunately the kids are separated from their parents, or whatever the policy is. I hate it. It's very anti-Christian to do that. It's just mean. And so we can do both, though. We can have a border, and we can be compassionate. And just like when Tulsi was at the debate, you remember when they asked the abortion question at the debate, and you had like these 12 people up there, and one after another, yeah, right up until the day of birth, I don't have a problem, boom, boom,
which is
boom.
completely ridiculous.
Okay, but we get to Tulsi Gabbard, and she's talking about third trimester. Mm-hmm. And she deviated. She didn't say, no, we're going to ban it. She didn't say, we're going to ban abortion. She said, well, in the third trimester, there's got to be some restrictions, because that's sick. That's, she didn't say that word, but most people would think, yeah, that's kind of sick, because there are people in this country who can't have children. And I'm just like, and they would love to adopt. Okay. And if you're in the third trimester at that point, it's not like, it's a lot different.
I would love to adopt.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, you're again, my test case here. So it just perplexes me. You talk about the all or nothing routine. You hate women. What? What does that have to do with it's the third trimester. You're talking about, if that mother was about to miscarry that baby, all right, and that's a viable baby, they would do everything in their power to save that baby.
Right.
So we are getting so far away from having honest conversations with each other that it's almost like some people are living in this world that's so all or nothing and so black or white that they can't just look at an issue and say, yeah, that's kind of sick. That's barbarism. That's like, what are you thinking? Now, again, you're in the early stages. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of abortion, but you're in the early stages. I'm libertarian. You're living your life. You do what you think is right. Someone brought to me a long time ago, they said, what if some old dude rapes a teenager, like a young girl or something? Do you think she should? And
I've always been able to see both sides.
Yeah.
Because I have, I've served as a guardian ad litem, on cases like that. And that does happen.
Yeah.
And, there are young girls, 15, 16 years old, who are giving birth to their rapists' babies.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they should have to go through that.
No.
But when it comes to Democrats' argument about, in some cases, I think the baby can even be born and then they just let it cry until it dies. And that makes me say, whoa, like I'm pro-life then.
Yeah.
Like if that's what it means to be pro-choice, I'm pro-life because I'm not that.
Governor of Virginia. You're talking about the governor of Virginia.
Okay.
And this was after, what was disturbing is this is after they found the governor of Virginia at one time put on blackface. And there was a scandal that went for about a week. And then he made this statement about, well, they asked him the question, the hypothetical that you just posed here. So what if a baby is, comes out and they said, well, he said, and these were his words, and I'm sort of paraphrasing, but he said something like, we'll do all we can to keep the baby comfortable for a little while. I mean, I'm ready to cry because it's like,
keep it comfortable until you let it die.
Exactly.
That's not okay.
We're going to put it in, we'll put it in a room somewhere. And
that's murder. That is murder.
Yeah. In any other space-time continuum where sanity and morality of any kind, this is what I mean by extreme positions. We can all, as collectively as a human being, my wife, she's like very pro-life. So she'd be like, I'm bursting into the room. I'm going to grab the kid. I'm going to take him. I'll take care of him. I'll find a home for him.
Give the baby to me.
There you go. Give the baby to Stacie. So I just, again, I'm not a fan of this. But what I'm saying is the whole political spectrum, it's my way over here and my way over here. And the great thing about Tulsi Gabbard was she saw issues and she could see why the right-wing person would disagree and would respect their opinion, or that over here there was somebody who was really suffering with something that the people maybe on the other side didn't really see. I mean, she stood at Standing Rock, and a lot of the progressives were like, wow, she's a superhero standing at being at Standing Rock. But she also put on military gear and said, where do I serve? Where do I go to protect my country against terrorism? Ugh, you can't have both of those things. You can't be both. Well, she is, and that's why she's pretty awesome. And a lot of people, and this is the libertarians kind of don't get it with their Joe Jorgensen, Tulsi Gabbard's a socialist. I'm like, what? You had me, Joe. What did you do that for?
Do you think she could have been paid to say that?
Ooh, controlled opposition, Stacie. This is another theory that I have, that both the Greens and libertarians are controlled opposition. That's
Did you know that the day after Joe Jorgensen got the nomination, which, by the way, Jacob Hornberger was in the lead. The libertarian voters chose Jacob Hornberger. The delegates chose Joe Jorgensen. How is that different from the DNC? Just had to throw that in there.
No.
Anyways,
it's
moving
fine.
on. The morning after she got the nomination, she tweeted this tweet that said, what do you think about me using the campaign slogan, I'm with her?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why would she think that was a good idea? Why? Tell me why. I don't understand. I mean,
that's funny.
If you're anti-war, right? If you're anti-war, you would think that would be a bad idea. So I'm just like, wait, what?
Okay, I've got this. All right, I got this. All right. Let me give you a scoop.
Tell me how it goes. Yeah.
This is good. This is vodka. This is vodka induced thinking here. I'm with her is a brand. It's a brand. So because
it's a shit brand. Sorry, go on.
True, but there are going to be enough people that see that, and this is for stupid people. I do videos about this on my other channel, the rock music channel, the Real Music Observer, where people show up at a concert and they don't even know if any of the original members are in the band. It's the same. It's the exact same concept. It's like, I'm with her. Okay. I voted for that last time. I voted for I'm with her, and I want, Stacie, I want the first female president. I don't really care about what they believe. I know
We've
got a vagina. So
got to have more faith in people than that. We've got to, if we're going to believe in democracy, we have to believe in people.
well,
And
that's on Joe Jorgensen though, for not thinking that her ideas, the force of her ideas and intellect was going to propel her campaign. She brainstormed and she said, "Remember that I'm with her thing? Wasn't that cute? I can take that.
It was not cute.
I can take it." And people will,
Yeah.
and by the way, the Libertarian Party, I want to say this with all love and sincerity, they're trying too hard to court disaffected neoliberal Democrats. They did it with Gary Johnson as well. And because Gary, I thought, was going to be like super robo-libertarian. Who did he pick for his running mate? Do you know this?
Joe Jorgensen.
No, Gary Johnson, the last guy who ran for president, and he got the nomination for the Libertarian Party.
I don't know.
He picked former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld. Now, I know you're kind of new at this, a little in the politics. All right, so let me explain this for the listeners, the viewers, whatever. So Bill Weld, all right, Attorney General Bill Weld, locked up prisoners for probably way too long, did all this stuff, basically did all the Joe Biden stuff and all the stuff that during the 90s did the bidding for Bill Clinton. During those, well, he was governor a little bit right after that in Massachusetts. The point is, neoliberal to the core, Bill Weld, who was kind of a neoconservative, but he was a liberal Republican. Bill Weld qualifies as what we used to call in the whole political realm as a Rockefeller Republican. Basically, Mr. like a New World Order guy, does the bidding of the powers that be. So libertarians put Gary Johnson, who's supposed to be like live free or die, and then Bill Weld, who is basically part of the entire neoliberal political culture for generations as Attorney General and then as governor of Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. Both of them are governors, and both of them had libertarian tendencies while they were governor, but compared to what? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they were, again, like, yeah, you can get an abortion. Yeah, you could smoke pot. Okay. Sorry, are you anti-war? I don't know. I don't know if Bill Weld would be anti-war if he became president. I'm sure he'd be hanging out with John Bolton. So that's what I'm saying, that the Libertarian Party, when they pick a candidate, they really need to pick a libertarian.
Yeah.
So that's my, and that's why this is tough, because there aren't good choices, and we're going to end up, there are a lot of people I'm talking to, and they're like, well, I don't like Trump, but Trump is more anti-war than anybody on the stage. Supposedly, if Jorgensen or Howie Hawkins got on there, they would be more anti-war, but they're not going to win. They're not going to win.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Joe Jorgensen could win.
I don't think that she could win. I think that there are a lot of people who are not on social media all of the time, who aren't, they're just sitting at home quietly and planning to vote for Trump. Now, I think that Trump is a total buffoon.
Yeah.
And, before I knew how horrible Hillary Clinton was, I voted for her.
Yeah.
Because in the debates, I just remember him being such a pompous, arrogant ass.
Yeah.
And also really pretty stupid. He didn't know anything about the law.
No.
But I don't really think that he's a bad guy. He made those sexual comments and, that was, but I personally don't really care about what my president wants to do on his own time. I really don't care. I mean, they could really just not tell me. Yeah. And I would be fine. Unless of course he is actually a criminal. But, I think Trump is a complete buffoon. I think he doesn't understand foreign policy. He doesn't understand the law. But do I think that he is a horrible, evil man? Not really.
No.
Like Orange Man bad.
Yeah.
No, not really. I don't really think he's evil. And, I do think that when he became, when he was campaigning before 2016 and he said that he was going to bring the troops home, I really think that he meant it.
Yep.
And, I do think that things are complicated. And I do think that he needs to get rid of Mike Pompeo.
Yeah.
He did a great job when he got rid of Bolton. Okay,
Yes.
great. Now get rid of Mike Pompeo, because these are his experts. Like, this is his legal expert / intelligence agency expert. He was like the former director of the CIA.
Yeah.
And this is who he listens to.
Mm-hmm.
And he's believing what they tell him.
Right.
Which makes sense. He just needs different people, different experts. Just get different experts, because I don't think he's evil. I think he's an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I remember I think you commented on Twitter when I said, I really don't think Trump was smart enough to collude with the Russians.
I
just honestly don't. And I have a theory that I don't even think he thought he was going to win. I just thought the reason Donald Trump won is because Hillary Clinton sucked so bad. The fact that she didn't go and campaign, the fact that she was falling into her Scooby van when it was driving away, they had all these people pushing her in there, and nobody in the media wanted you to see the video because, oh no, and people were saying, maybe she's got some health issues, huh? Maybe there's something going on with Hillary. And then, Hillary's and the funny thing is the Joe Biden campaign is an exact replica of the Hillary campaign. We'll keep him in the basement. We've got COVID. Hey, we got COVID-19 out there, so we can just blame it on COVID. He can't talk. He can't. Trump wanted 4 debates. Biden's like, no, 3 is enough. If I can get through 1, I'm going to be lucky. Imagine Joe Biden against Trump in a debate. Ooh, I mean, look, Trump has trouble with the English language, but nowhere near where Biden is.
Right.
Trump, and they're running ads here in Florida basically saying Joe Biden is a very diminished man. And they show him like blah, 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 blah. Like just talking gibberish.
I cannot believe that these are our choices.
They nominated.
Like, how did we get here?
I know. Trump looks like Superman. Maybe not Superman, but he looks as though, hey, at least Trump is standing on 2 feet. He's going to speak for a while extemporaneously, by the way, because Trump can do that. He goes off prompter, and his advisors are like, "Oh crap, what's he going to say?"
Cut the mic.
I know, but he could talk. That's what he's probably going to drop an F-bomb or say something. And but this is, I hate to say it, but most like your Joe Six-pack Americans are watching Trump and going, "Yeah, man, yeah, screw the government. Trump cares about me. These people, they're all a bunch of inside political. Trump's more like me." And that's his appeal, is that he relates to the working class for some reason. Love the guy, and he's a billionaire, but they love him because he's just he's a bomb throwing, and he just says stupid crap, and they go, he's real. And that's the thing, authenticity. See, this is why I get so mad at people who didn't get Tulsi Gabbard, because not only did you get authenticity, but you got an articulate person. You had a diplomat. You had somebody who was versed on every issue. It was just weird sometimes. I'd watch her and go, how the heck does she know about opiates? I mean, she's spouting off statistics, and I'm going, oh my gosh, America needs Tulsi.
Yeah. When I want to talk to you a little bit about that first time that I saw her. Is that okay? I want to tell you about that first debate, because So Tulsi's first Democratic debate in 2019, it was like June 27th or 28th or something like that. So it's been a little bit more than a year now.
Yep.
I saw her on stage, and she's very poised and calm and composed, and she looks professional.
Yes.
And I just immediately asked my husband, who's that? Because I was only watching the debate because he wanted to watch it. Politics were not my thing. I still don't like politics. I hate politics. I think politics are evil. I still do. I still think the same thing.
I'm kind of with you.
I know that they're even more evil than I ever could have imagined. But, you know, I'm basically right back to where I started from.
Yeah.
So, so I asked him, who is that? And he said, oh, that's Tulsi Gabbard. And I was like, okay. And then, you know, I started to kind of lose interest a little bit because, you know, I don't really, I think they're all corrupt.
Yeah.
So then she starts talking and she just takes out Tim Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that she did it, it wasn't like angry in any way.
No.
It was very matter of fact. She just kind of cross-examined him in like the best possible way that you could cross-examine someone. And she was so calm and composed. And it was just like, boom.
Yeah.
Wait, who did I say? Tim Ryan.
Tim Ryan, yeah.
She takes out Tim Ryan. And I said, holy shit. Like, did you just see that?
Yeah.
Like, this woman has what it takes to beat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can tell I could tell just by watching that little clip that these are the skills that you need in a negotiation.
Right.
And what do I expect my president to do? I expect my president to negotiate with foreign leaders on other parts of the globe.
Yes.
And you could tell that she is just calm and reasonable. And she has this persona that's just like she's in charge. But at the same time, she's not like angry female.
Right.
You know, like and you know, I don't make these rules. The feminists are going to come after me. The feminist mob, bring it on.
Yeah.
But you know, the rule is, you know, like in business and in law, and I'm sure in politics, you know, an angry woman does not beat an angry man. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there. I've been there. I've tried all the different strategies, and this is what works. She's calm. She's composed. This is the type of person who does have what it takes to beat Donald Trump, and also who does have what it takes to negotiate with foreign leaders. And that's what the president is supposed to do. The president is supposed to first and foremost handle foreign policy issues. So if we have this situation where, you know, Trump gets attacked if he tries to have a conversation with Putin, how are we supposed to work anything out if the Democrats don't even want him to talk to Putin? Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, look, the one thing, and obviously we kind of sort of litigated Trump in a sense, that we looked at Trump's good and bad, and he's kind of a buffoon, orange man bad. And we realized, and I've said this, I don't think in his heart he wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm going to be Darth Vader to the most of the country today. That's not.
But then his feelings get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, people say mean things to him, and so he has to say mean things back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, he's a bully. He's a boardroom bully is what Trump is. This is how he's conducted business. He's from New York. He's a brawler. He gets in there and he throws haymakers, and then, you know, and then the very erudite media comes back and says, "Oh, we can't." All the like the George W. Bush, Mitt Romney sycophants all come forward and say, "Oh no, we can't have a president. Could you like this? Can you please pass the Grey Poupon? We need to get back. We need to get back to, you know, the semblance of decency. And oh my goodness, and we need Joe Biden." And then you think, Joe Biden, the guy who says you ain't black man because you're not supporting me. So you're going to go from one supposed train wreck to a nicer, friendlier train wreck that can't even speak English. So my thing with Trump is tried in North Korea. Bolton diffused that, obviously, and he got bad advice. He was close. Would have been cool if we got something done in North Korea. Trump was ill-advised to lob missiles into Syria. That's when I started really not liking Trump. I thought he was going to be different. And then Jared Kushner and his daughter are all crying because They believed that all these children got gassed, and this is a separate video. Obviously, it's not something I can talk too much here about.
Did you hear the new thing that Trump says Assad does not have to go? You know how they've been saying,
oh my gosh,
Clinton and Obama and, Bush,
yep.
They've all been saying for years and years and years, Assad has to go, Assad has to go.
Mm-hmm.
Trump just very recently said Assad doesn't have to go, which makes sense because guess who would take his place?
Yeah, well, exactly. But the thing is, see, Trump, unlike all the neocons and libs, Trump has seen what's happened in Libya. Trump has seen what's happened in Iraq. Trump has seen what can happen in Afghanistan. I think Trump said, very smartly about Bolton, he said, well, he wanted to bomb, every time I would meet him, he'd want to go bomb someone. And Trump is like, can we do some other way? And no, we can't. We have to bomb these people. So it's like, submit to us. We're an empire. This is what we do. We go around the world. We make other countries lose their sovereignty. We make other countries submit to our will. We don't allow these countries to do self-determination. We do it through either these wars, these proxy wars, or these sanctions, which again, all over the place, causing all kinds of migration, all kinds of issues, whether it's in the Middle East or in South America, or all around the globe for that matter. With North Korea, oh, you have to stand up to Kim. Why? So he could start a nuclear war? So Trump said this the other day, and it was brilliant. He said, since we had our negotiations and our talks, he hasn't fired one. I mean, he had a couple little missile things, but no long-range things, no big-time missile tests. He still could do it because they never came to an agreement, and that's because all of Trump's lousy advisors, you mentioned, I like to call him Pompeo.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
He's just such a moron. Every time he gives a speech, he looks like he's just one of these stuffed shirts that's been in the government for so long, and you could just feel it. And he talks in cliches. By the way, I'm not a huge fan of Mike Pence either, but that was a charity, act of charity for the real hardcore conservative wing in the Republican Party that wanted, religious conservatives so they would come out and vote for Trump because, hey, I'm voting for Trump, but he's kind of vulgar and he swears a lot, and I don't think he reads the Bible, and I think he's probably been sleeping around since he was, old enough to do it. So, he wasn't a really good poster child. So, hey, but look, he picked Mike Pence. So
right.
Pence is he's a neo-conservative to the core. And I used to tell people, you're so in a rush to impeach Trump. What are you going to get? You're going to get Mr. Warmonger, which shows me that you don't care. War is not on your radar as far as your so-called Democrat values. The Democratic Party, they used to be the anti-war party. Now they're, hey, we can manage the war a lot better. We have people that really know this stuff inside out, and we're going to get in there, and we're going to fight, and we're going to win, and it's like, okay, that's not what I want. See, here's the thing. I will still consider voting for Jo Jorgensen, even though I think she's an idiot, because her platform is straight up anti-war, Second Amendment, First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, 10th Amendment. That's a whole handful of things I care about right there. So maybe we'll see. But does she have a chance to win in a general election, as we kind of agree? Probably not. So
yeah.
But do I help?
And
Trump?
she is being censored. I saw whoever's controlling her account, which I'm sure is her and other members of her campaign, said something about how they keep getting censored. And I believe it. I do believe it.
Yeah, I mean,
because Tulsi was censored, and I commented and I said, this is what Tulsi Gabbard has been going through,
mm-hmm.
and any candidate who is anti-war gets censored and silenced. Yeah. Perhaps one day we can become allies, and I think that would be really nice to become allies one day. But with the libertarians and the Greens, it's, you know, their economic policy. The libertarians are just so far right, and the Greens are so far left. Why can't we just be reasonable? I mean, what is the big problem with emergency UBI? What's the problem? I mean, people are starving. They're not working. They're hungry. What's the big deal about emergency UBI? Why is that such a, you know, sin? If you're a libertarian, it's like a total sin. You know, Justin Amash was just like attacked for even suggesting emergency UBI, and I thought it was a good idea.
Now you might know better than me. When he left the Republican Party, is he independent or is he libertarian? Did he register? Did he say, I'm an L now? Because that would be unprecedented if he did.
When he left the Republican Party, he was an independent. And then when he decided to run for president, he did like a test run or whatever. He became a libertarian. And then he really was attacked by every single libertarian candidate. And I was and still am a very big fan of Jacob Hornberger. Not because I agree with him on every single issue. I don't. I am a huge fan of Jacob Hornberger because he speaks out for Assange and Snowden, and he tells the truth about what our government has done in the past. He tells people about the atrocities that the CIA has been committing. And you know, for that reason, he gets censored and silenced. And I think that that's a shame. And I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why the libertarians, why the delegates did not choose him, even though he had the lead. But I think that, so here, back to my point, what I was saying, Jacob Hornberger, although I really am a huge fan of his, I was upset when he was kind of lashing out at Justin Amash. He was calling Justin Amash a hybrid. Not a real libertarian, a hybrid. Well, guess what? I'm a hybrid. And aren't we all hybrids? Okay, because if you're not a hybrid, then that means that you either believe every single thing that the Republicans think, or the Democrats, or the Libertarians, or the Greens. And if you're not in one of those four categories, then, you're a hybrid and an outsider and an outcast. And you don't, you know, I think it's just ridiculous. I think that the parties need to talk to each other. And Jo Jorgensen's comment about Tulsi Gabbard being a socialist, and I remember her saying, didn't she support Bernie Sanders in 2016? You know, and it's like, you're not even paying attention.
No.
You're not paying attention, because if you were paying attention, you would know that Tulsi Gabbard stepped down from her position as co-chair of the DNC because she was protesting the unfairness in the
Hillary Clinton,
the election process. She was protesting the rigging. And then when she endorsed Bernie over Hillary, it's because, you know, the president of Iran didn't label Bernie as an enemy of Iran. He labeled Hillary Clinton as an enemy of Iran. So you kind of maybe don't want that to be your president. So it wasn't about Bernie Sanders. It's not that Tulsi Gabbard believes every single thing that Bernie Sanders believes. She's not a Bernie puppet. She's not a Democrat puppet. She's not anybody's puppet. And I feel like there are too many puppets.
Well, and you're right. You're right. The issue that I think Jo Jorgensen needs to understand is that, okay, the Libertarian Party, unfiltered, like if the Libertarians can have everything they wanted. By the way, and they tend to evolve toward the left on the issues that concern me about the left, which is weird. And
right.
they tend to,
Defund the police.
yeah.
They
And
want to defund the
they
police.
do.
They say, oh, but we mean the federal police. Well,
Lousy presentation. It's basically when the Green Party, like, okay, Howie Hawkins, I'll give an example. All right, I was kind of into Howie for a little while, but then, you know, when they're running around getting the Socialist Party's nomination along with the Green Party nomination, and their platform has the word eco-socialist in it, I'm thinking, and I'm just thinking on practical terms. I'm thinking that's too left. It's not gonna. There are heartland Americans. There are people that believe that socialism leads to communism, leads to authoritarianism, and you can explain it as democratic socialism all you want. The problem is people are going to still sense authoritarianism in there, and you'd have to go through a full re-education process before you can even come to grips with the term socialist. Okay, and I have mixed feelings about it. I would consider it, and this is the way, again, this is my new moderation. I would say it's capitalism with some very strong restraints in places to keep capitalism from running, because typically capitalism runs off the rails every few years and you have to put it back on, whether it's the monetary policy, whether it's the fact that the economy is too hot or too cold, whatever it is, the banks do all this stuff. And I agree with the libertarians. If you get rid of the way the banks run themselves right now, and you don't have a Fed, obviously get rid of the Fed, and both the Greens and Libertarians are on that. They think that cures all of the economic ills, because that's their conclusion. My friend Reed was on here, who follows me on Twitter, hardcore libertarian, nice guy.
I know Reed.
Yeah, you know Reed.
Yeah.
So, but his answer was, well, if we just fix that, then you can. I said, there's nobody in the inner city that's going to vote for you. I'm sorry. There's nobody who's under this weight of oppression and urban blight and all of these things. And I do kind of empathize with some of the BLM stuff that's more on the common sense side of things, is that, hey, you know, we tried Obama, that didn't work. We had 8 years of that didn't work. We got Trump, you know, opportunity zones are nice, but we're kind of like still. So I can kind of empathize with that. I don't think, you know, people should burn everything in their neighborhood down. That's not going to help your neighborhood. But, you know, getting back to libertarians, it's like their economic policies. And I'm telling them this. I'm like, look, you can read Ayn Rand all day long. You can read Atlas Shrugged from cover to cover and think, I can just start my own new civilization and fly away. And we can all the smart utopia. People, you know, we can get together and we'll all be producers and we'll be productive and, you know, and screw everybody else. Is that a compassionate world? See, Ayn Rand, if you know anything about her, is that she was an atheist, okay? And her worldview was very much kind of like survival of the fittest, survival of the smartest. And my fellow people, Americans, whatever, I don't know about them. All I know is that the smart people are going to rise to the top, and the smart people will take care of these people for a little while. But if those people don't respond and become smart like us, then we kind of have to just go away from them. Now, here's my view of that. You're not chosen what town you're born in. You're not chosen what family you're born into. You don't know. You can't choose like how many parents you're going to have. Like, you're going to be in a mother and father family. You're going to have a single mother. Are you going to be left for foster care? You don't have control of that. Okay. And so I think my compassionate side, my more green side, if that's, you know, whatever, or just more progressive side, would be that, yeah, we are our brother's keeper to some degree. We can't just run a world and say, screw that, I'm not going to worry about that. So the Libertarian Party doesn't, you know what the Libertarian Party says all the time? Oh, the church, the charities, they're going to just rise up and we're going to unleash the charities. Well, I don't know about you. I go to a big evangelical church, and I go there because it's the kind of the only game in town. And sometimes I question my own morality sometimes when I leave. Sometimes I hear really good, interesting sermons and messages, and they affect me in a good way. But then I look around me and I go, Lexus, Cadillac, Lexus, Alfa Romeo, Beamer.
Yeah.
That's
You
the
know,
church?
what's
That's,
really frustrating to me is, I am a Christian. I'm definitely a Christian. I don't hang out in church.
yeah.
I think that, I have hung out in church before, but there are a lot of social cliques, and I don't really want to go to church just to be part of the social clique. And I think that it's really unfortunate. I mean, I know there are politicians in my area who I know that they do their networking at
Yeah,
church.
I know.
And I think that's so wrong. I really think that religion has no place in government,
True.
that, it doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever. It shouldn't matter, because religion does not belong in government.
To the state.
Separation of church and state is the only way that we can have peace.
Right.
And, people might say that has biblical implications, whatever. That's what I see. I mean, I see so much corruption that comes from religion.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to just be a Christian without, and I'm not a politician, so I can say I'm a Christian. I'm not running for office, and I don't plan to.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a shame.
Yeah.
They're social clubs. I don't want to be in a clique.
It is.
And my mom goes to church, and her husband is part of the social cliques and everything. And my mom wants to organize things to take care of the homeless people, and do things that actually matter, that Christians should be doing, that the libertarians are saying the church will handle it. Well, I don't know. I mean, my mother will handle it, but she's only one person, and I don't see the rest of the church doing the things that she's doing.
Nope. The church, again, it's you hit the nail on the head when you said social club. I have this, I almost started, I have all these names for YouTube channels that I thought I was going to start. I almost started one called The Church is a Rich Man's Sport. Because again, and I'm not saying you can't drive a fancy car and go to church. I'm not saying any of that. Okay. I don't want to make it sound like I'm against wealth. Okay. And by the way, I'm not one of those people that says, oh, you got to take from all these rich people and give it to the poor, like Robin Hood. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But what I am saying is that it seems when you get comfortable, and I see a lot of people, senior type people in their later years, and it's like fire insurance to them. That's what church is. It's like, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to be good because I don't want to go to hell. And I'm going to find out about God, and I'm going to be a good person, and I'm going to tithe. I'll give my money to the church, and that makes me feel good. And tithing really isn't a big strain when you've put away a few $1,000,000 and you're getting interest on whatever, and your portfolio is nice and fat, and you're driving around all these nice cars and living in a beautiful house. That's not real Christianity. That is like, I don't know, like you say, it's more of a social club and gathering, and you'll get some feel-good, touchy-feely, happy messaging from the church, and the church will either confirm your beliefs, or they might challenge you a little bit here and there, But when it comes to giving and being in the trenches, like the Mother Teresa model for giving, somebody said on Twitter, who can you name who you think shouldn't be gone after, or something like that on Twitter. And I said, how about Mother Teresa? And they were like, she's got a ton of dirt in her closet or something. I'm like, what? Like Mother Teresa? This is how bad Twitter is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that just illustrates the idiocy of Twitter.
It's nuts. So to answer the whole libertarian problem here is, I'm sorry, even if the church was equipped to do these things, which they are currently not, and they really don't have an intention to get really into it and get their hands dirty, that would be still a drop in the bucket to what is needed in society, for whether it's homelessness, whether that's underemployment, whether that, I mean, I tell people, go look at rents right now. Go look at renting. Now, thank God I'm in a house and we pay a mortgage. The mortgage is a lot cheaper than most of these rents out there right now. And we're talking crappy places to go and live. I mean, in the state of Florida, I know it's worse. Like, one of the things about Seattle that I checked out, it has nothing to do with the Chaz zone or whatever, but the cost of living in Seattle is insanity. It's like, if you want to live in a one-bedroom studio or one-bedroom or a studio in Seattle, $2,000, $3,000, $3,500 a month.
That is insane.
And
wow.
So we've got some problems where I would say libertarians, well, what are you going to do about rent? And they would say, oh, competition. You got to need more competition out there. You get more landlords, more competition it's going to lower rents. Really? Because all these people go in as slumlords. They do zero to fix the property. You need regulations. You don't need competition. You need regulations. You can't go above this amount. And you have to maintain your property. I mean, you're in the legal realm here, so you could probably have some expertise in this. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm sorry, this is when people start to check out of reality. Like, if you're a libertarian, you're going to go down your laundry list and tell me how the economic plan is going to work. I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to say, do you live in the real world? Do you just live in your libertarian bubble where you go down through all of these policies, and you're going to end up in a gulch in with your happy crew of libertarians.
Right. And so did they want it to be an intellectual club, or did they want to actually be a political party?
You're really good at this. You're really good at this. Glad I had you on, and we're going to have to wrap up really soon here because we're hitting about 2 hours, and we want we want people to watch some of this.
I didn't realize that we'd been talking for that long.
Yeah, I see you've got a friend there too now.
Yes, this is Lucy.
Hey, Lucy. So yeah, I guess we'll just wrap it up, and there's a lot. I mean, we obviously covered a ton of ground, but I think the reason that I'm going to continue to do politics, I mean, I'm way more successful doing videos about old rock bands and so forth, but the reason I'm
fun, right?
What's that?
This is fun.
It's more
fun to make fun of Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
It's cathartic. It's what it is
right?
cathartic.
Right.
But we need moderation. We need some people. My conclusion, and talking to you affirms it, and even on Twitter, I've had some people say, "Hey, I like your new approach," because the other thing, even though you're making some good points and you're trying to I was trying to fit myself into a green mold or a progressive mold or whatever it was, and I really didn't feel comfortable in there. And the more I looked at some of the things they were saying and some of the things they're doing or encouraging, this is the thing that really spooked me on Twitter. It's like, yeah, burn it down. Good. I'm glad. And I'm like, you realize that a bunch of black-owned businesses got torched, right? You realize that. And they just don't bat an eye to that. They're like, whatever. I mean, we got to burn the system down, which means what? You have to put more people out of work and have more people lose their homes or their way of life. That's going to solve problems. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be the peacemaker. I'm going to be the guy that says, again, you can do some of this over here and you can do some of this over there, and you need the two sides to come together, whether that's progressive or conservative, whatever it is, and say, you know what? We got to stop fighting. We got to start working. We got to be serious. We can't just be talking about tribal warfare all day long and he said, she said, and fake Russian collusion and that stuff is getting us nowhere. And until Americans start to realize that that we're all being played, we're gonna wind up with the government that we deserve.
Mm-hmm. And we are all being played.
Any last words?
No, but thank you so much for having me on.
You bet. And anytime, maybe we should do this like once a month, just a vent about the issues of the day. Maybe we should keep it to like, we'll have a list of like just 3 or 4 topics because
right.
It seems like we can talk. So, and that's a good thing. All right. Again, I want to thank my guest, Stacie Haneline, for coming on the show. You could see her on Twitter. Follow her if you'd like, because she's got interesting perspectives. And certainly we need somebody who is a bit of an outsider who's come into this and is now scratching their head and going, WTF, what's going on? So, yeah, we need more of that because, a lot of times people get scared of this stuff and they get a little taste of it and they say, I'm just going to go back to doing what I used to do, which is not politics. So I guess we can be thankful that you're still here. Thanks again. Thanks again, Stacie.